Have you noticed that less and less people are talking about the soul of an image? More and more, it's just about the pixels, the tools, the gears. Alright, so here's a fun one. In a 2025 study on deepfake detection, they determined that only 1 in 1,000 people could reliably tell the difference between AI-created footage and raw footage. So my guess is that your film professor uncle with the Kubrick tattoo is probably amongst the failures on that test with the rest of us. And still, we're out here discussing some pretty tight specifics, which can be fun. Lighting ratios like it's 97, and choosing camera specs through Reddit, like we're only one gaffer's wrench away from perfect cinematography salvation. So here's the question. If the image no longer only passes through the camera, what exactly is the cinematographer's role? Today on Rift Theory, we're lighting up a quiet shift that's already been taking place in production culture, one that your favorite DP might already be living through right now. Cinematography isn't dying. We're not doomers here. It's evolving, just like everything else we talk about, and it's doing so fast. We're trading our lens-based control for visual authorship, from capturing light to designing emotional credibility inside hybrid, synthetic, and sometimes even AI-shaped pipelines. Whether you're a filmmaker, storyteller, or human trying to stay emotionally fluent in the age of machine-crafted media, this one's for you. Let's jump into it. First, our setup. The eye was never alone. From the early days of cinema, the director of photography, or DP, aka the cinematographer, held a sacred position, the first human witness. Their name might not make the headline of the film, but their eyes shaped every frame that you remember in popular films. We often picture the DP as the quiet oracle behind the lens, bathed in shadow, squinting through a viewfinder while a crew waits for their nod. The mythic image, the technician-artist hybrid, sculpting reality with light. But here's the reframing for modern times. The camera wasn't the true power. It was the evidence, the visible proof that something real had happened, a trust mechanism embedded in glass and mechanics. But that's now slowly shifting. Today, high-quality visuals can be born entirely within the machine. No sensors, no lenses, no physical sets, and in many cases, no human behind the moment when the light actually landed on the eye. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Cinematography was never only about pressing record. It's always been about conveying emotional truth, atmosphere, a rhythm in the film, but the physical apparatus once tethered us to some form of reality. It signified an effort and a presence. That tether is loosening, not everywhere, but it's showing signs. Meanwhile, most film curriculums are still teaching workflows built for hardware-centric environments, which still do exist. Loading 16mm, reverse engineering a 3-point lighting grid on paper. These fundamentals aren't wrong, and they can be important to know, and obviously we'll need that knowledge to grow. We're not always just going to be able to use AI. But on their own, they're incomplete for a modern cinematographer. Your takeaway here is that having a mastery of the tools will always evolve, so there's no reason to panic. But the heart of the craft, the emotional resonance through visual design, that will always stay, and it can come from you. But if education doesn't evolve with production, we leave a generation of image makers fluent in obsolete techniques, struggling to apply them in workflows that no longer resemble the celluloid. Now that doesn't mean we forget the old stuff. We learn from it and add to it. We don't stick to nostalgia. Now the tension. Pixel real, but emotionally fake. Let's rewind to last year. A teaser for The Sky Keepers dropped. It was an alternate history war drama where AI reconstructed, quote, lost footage from World War II. It was striking, it was poetic, and it was entirely AI generated. There was no camera used, yet it went viral as authentic in its own way. Historians hesitated with it, audiences kind of debated it. It was a huge hot topic issue amongst all the other video stuff we discussed among AI. And A-listers started asking their editors if they too could enhance vibe with synthetic tools. Then came The Brutalist and Emilia Perez. Films were blending AI-augmented editing into mainstream releases. One scored nominations, the other broke TikTok timelines. The biggest kicker of all is what some people may have already been predicting, that most viewers couldn't tell the difference at all. A 2025 iProve study on visual authenticity found that only 0.1% of subjects could reliably identify AI-created footage in controlled tests. While that number is situation dependent, obviously, it is clear in its directionality. Humans trust images by default, which can cause a lot of problems in the modern world and politics and all the rest. But in film, perhaps it works towards you. We've now slowly slid into something we're calling the post-evidentiary era. It doesn't sound that great and probably has a lot of problems, and it's where most or many images no longer carry a guaranteed link to any real photographic lens. So, which begins to beg a massive, disconcerting question. If the audience can't tell what's real, what does a cinematographer really certify anymore? And the takeaway is that the job isn't to prove that the scene happened. It's to ensure that it felt consistent, truthful, and emotionally earned, to tie the rest of the film together, whether it was filmed or simulated. Now, a question for you guys is, if you've ever watched a scene that felt deeply honest to you in a film, even though you knew that the setting or the actor was completely digital, did that change the emotion of it? Think of the large budget Marvel movies, for example. Did it change the emotion that you knew it was CGI, for example? Or did it resonate with the rest of the film, completing the package in that way? Now let's quickly clarify. This isn't throwing away decades of cinematography, and many of the old techniques won't and shouldn't go away soon or ever. It's reframing how the eye exerts influence on the final piece. In many ways, cinematography used to be and still is a hunt. Think of nature documentaries where the entire thing can last days and months to capture one perfect image. There's small tweaks, nudges, reactions to subtle shifts. But now we're framing visuals. We're designing outcomes via prompts, node trees, logic stacks. Enter synthography, a practice that blends cinematography, art direction, and prompt generation to achieve cinematic emotionality without direct optics. So no, this isn't just a VFX with a new PR name on it. It's not the same as all animation pipelines. It's something a little bit squishier, messier, less defined. It's image making that moves through verbal, conceptual, and procedural means rather than just the simple glass and the metal. And so to do it well, you still need to retain visual language fluency, which you may or may not have learned in your film schools. Phrases like Rembrandt key light with a 10% fall off or hyperreal lens bloom with film grain overlay now shape a generated visual. These aren't mood board buzzwords anymore. They're direct instructions to an AI to reach the image that you hope to achieve. Some schools are already getting it. USC's AI for Media and Storytelling just launched a lab teaching image prompting as part of advanced cinematography. So we're beginning to see a shift in a lot of educational institutions. So some of the takeaways from this is that your visual vocabulary, the things that you learn from the quote old world of cinematography, are still going to enhance your prompt power. Knowing what you can look for, what you are looking for, is going to really help you achieve your visual image. Even if you have everything at your disposal, if you don't know what you're shooting for, you cannot create it. Secondly, the best future DPs won't just light a scene. They'll design transmedia visual tone. Thirdly, calling a shot is no longer about where the camera goes solely. It's about defining how the image feels in the end, even across non-traditional tools. Of course, this has always been a factor with cinematography, but the non-traditional tools are something that we do have to look at. Don't be a doomer about it. Don't let it slip between your fingers. Now, a quick engagement question for you guys. If you had to describe your visual emotion, now a quick question for you guys. If you had to define your personal visual emotional style within just 6 words, for example, if you were doing a prompt, how would you do it? Throw them into the comments for me. I'd appreciate it. I'd love to chat about them. Now let's talk directly about the role shift taking place for a cinematographer, from operator to orchestrator, like many of the other AI topics we've been talking about. A full decade ago, the cinematographer ran the set visually. Today, the image's origin might live in a few different places. A VAD, a visual art department, that blocks and lights before a single wall's been built. Or a prompt designer who lays tone before casting begins, much like the storyboards that are created in other formats. An editor who adds depth, light refraction, facial detail in post with AI fine-tuning. We saw it a little bit with Indiana Jones. I don't know how you felt about that. So the question is, where is the cinematographer? And the answer is that now they are everywhere. Whether you like that or not, for your approach to filmmaking, this role has become less a person behind the lens and more of a visual showrunner, the one who ensures an emotional and aesthetic continuity across the physical, virtual, synthetic, and the hybrid frames to create a consistent image for the viewer in the end. Sometimes that'll involve holding a direct camera. Sometimes it's just guiding a team of machine learning artists and real-time designers to achieve the image that you and the director might have. So a takeaway here is that cinematographers now are stretching across production timelines and pipelines. So their job is to guide the soul of the image, even when its body never existed. Now, in a lot of ways, this might seem like we're losing some reality because we're not touching the camera as much. But in a lot of ways, we're removing the technicality away from the artist. The artist never was supposed to, or you could argue that an artist doesn't need or shouldn't need to be technical to be able to create their vision. Now, the visual artist, the vision becomes more important when the tools are easier to explain. But the image and the idea and the style of how you're going to prompt it and get there is still something that you need to craft fully as an idea in your head. Now, here's an important truth. What the machine cannot fake. Here's the crack in the polished image. Generative results are stunning now, technically, but psychologically the question is still lingering. Why don't they always feel completely right? AI tools can fake lens compression, they can simulate subtle eye glints, but they struggle with emotional noise, additional feeling, that micro blur from handheld restraint, the atmospheric inconsistency that makes a moment breathe instead of just perform. That's the missing humanity. Even frames that pass the resolution test, the ones that can't be identified, there's still something that makes it a little bit bland. It's that eerie friction in the uncanny zone where our brain says that it looks perfect, but that our hearts are saying something's just a little bit off. And so the takeaway here is that whatever the algorithm is going to miss, the DP must defend it or fix it or understand what's missing and enhance it. The tiny flaws and the imperfect pulses, that's where the images are going to sneak past our conscious filter and hit us in the gut. That's why the visuals and the image and the idea of what the person's trying to get across is going to get even more important. So let's try to close the tension gap. The human eye cannot always catch synthetic fakes, as we talked about previously. And some stats are showing that 83% of viewers do suspect content might be AI. And a solid 36% of them report that they lose trust in scenes at the moment that they think they're watching machine-generated footage. So what exactly is it that we're defending? It's not so much the realism as much as it is the relatability. It's not the tool set, it's the tone that we're getting across. Visual believability is no longer only technical. It's emotional storytelling discipline. It's the ability to maintain a vibe, a rhythm, and an intent across an unstable stack. It's why if you do use AI, I do caution people to sometimes be honest about it, be authentic, because if it's obvious to other people and you're pretending like it's not, they might not like it. That said, if you're experimenting with trying to hide AI to make it real, to see where you can push it, obviously mess with it that way. But I think being honest with your audience is something that we always need to take away. Audiences can spot fakes as your takeaway by feel. And it's not because they detect all the pixels, it's because they can sense that the creator's taste may have been absent. And that's the most important piece to take away from this. So my question to you guys is, what's a film or show you trusted emotionally, even knowing that it leaned on visual effects? So now let's sum it all up in the closing section and give you guys some actionable insights. So here's the full rewrite. Cinematography isn't just where you point the camera. It's the emotional through line that you protect across tools, codes, timelines, and other storytelling modes. You're not riding the light anymore, only. You're shaping the logic of the feeling, the visual feeling, even when no photos may be involved. The future cinematographer is going to need to be flexible, fluent, and fearless to mess with the future that's coming towards him. Able to walk into a real room or a neural one and say, this doesn't feel truthful to me yet, and here's the reason why, and here's where I want to go with it. And a few final things that I'd like you guys to hold on to. Number one, learn to describe emotion in images fluently. Find the words the way you want to describe them. Put them down on paper as if you're writing a script. Get the idea fully out. Secondly, build a personal style prompt palette. Mess with it. Take what you took from the last step and try to expand it. Understand scenes. Build out the visuals you're looking for. Thirdly, curate and annotate your own images with why they work or don't work. Take notes, keep samples, work towards an image that makes sense to you and your visual style. And lastly, champion narrative feeling more than format fidelity. You're looking to connect with people. And in the modern world with social media, film, Netflix, everything changing, you're looking for any way to connect. So don't worry too much about format, holding on to nostalgia, worrying what people are going to think. Just be honest and create what feels right. If this episode sparks something, an idea, an existential itch, good. I'm glad and I'm happy you're here. If you guys want to dive deeper into the Rift, check out riftfitters.com. There you'll find our artifact shop where we're asking questions about what's made by hand versus what only feels like it was, where does AI come in, where we have real life-made art that's also manipulated into AI. And we talk about the blurring of lines there through those artifacts. We also have new entries in our Rift lore archives for our world builders and for our narrative hackers that want to dive a little bit further into the network that exists behind just Rift theory. And if you want tools, frameworks, and provocations delivered straight to your inner world, sign up for the newsletter over on Substack. You can do that through our website at riftfitters.com. For you guys that are long-form thinkers, grab the expanded write-up on our Medium, our Substack, or you can add us to your RSS feed from riftfitters.com. You guys can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. And remember, we are on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as well. I really appreciate you guys coming around. My name is Chris. This has been Rift Theory. We will see you next time.